gonna have to get super extra footage of Zaz to overlay because I forgot to grab her before I started. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle and this is Elle's Reptiles. So this week we're doing a video that's similar to one I did a couple weeks ago and similar to the one that I did before that. And that is all about biggest mistakes that new bearded dragon owners keep. I wasn't going to do a part 2 of this, but then you guys asked for a part 2 and I was like, I mean, there's a lot more mistakes that people make, so why not do a part 2? Plus you guys have been really enjoying the bearded dragon videos lately, so here we are. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by the Doobie Dude, so make sure you stay until the end of the video to find out all about how to save 10% off of your entire order at thedoobiedude.com. Let's get started. Alright, so the first one we're going to talk about is not using proper UVB lighting. This is actually a beginner mistake that I'm very much guilty of, because when I very first got my bearded dragon, I was told that coil UVB light was more than sufficient for your bearded dragon for their whole life. That just isn't true. Bearded dragons need a lot of UVB. In the wild, they are out in the sun all day. They are surrounded by sunlight, so they need high-powered UVB lighting in order to allow them to properly digest their food. And bearded dragons have to have linear UVB lighting that covers at least 3/4 of the top of their tanks. The absolute best brands for this is going to be the Arcadia brand and the Reptisun brand. So the importance of UVB lighting with reptiles is the same as in humans. Reptiles get vitamin D3 from their UVB lighting, which basically is there to mimic the sun, just like we get vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin D3 then turns around and helps their bodies metabolize calcium and keep up proper amounts of calcium in their blood and bones. Without the proper amounts of UVB lighting, you risk your bearded dragon having calcium deficiency and developing things like metabolic bone disease. We don't want that. Proper UVB lighting is one of the most important things that you can give to your bearded dragon. Next huge mistake that I see very often, and again, I am guilty of making this mistake when I very first got Zaz, is not using proper temperature measuring devices when you are measuring the basking spot temperature for your bearded dragon. I say this in so many videos. You guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, and it's just because it's a mistake that I have made, and it's a mistake that gets sent to my inbox all the time. This means not using a stick-on-wall thermometer to measure the basking spot of the tank. The basking spot of the tank could be upwards of 20-30 degrees Fahrenheit higher than what the wall stick-on thermometer is telling you it is, and this could become very dangerous for your bearded dragon very quickly. My favorite method of doing this is just using a temperature gun, has a little laser on it. You just point it where you want it to measure the temperature and you're good to go. This is my favorite because having a lot of different animals, I can just take it to every single tank and just zap all the tanks, make sure the temperatures are good, and carry on. You also can use probe thermometers. However, getting accurate probe thermometers is super iffy. I have even had people that sent me messages because their probe thermometer was showing them that the temperature was correct and their bearded dragon was constantly panting and in a state of stress, and it turns out that the probe thermometer was broken. That has been sent to my inbox twice now. The use of only stick-on thermometers makes sense as to why it's such a big beginner mistake, and that's just because that's what pet stores sell. I used to always see the little bitty temperature guns in pet stores, but I never really see those anymore either. So most of the time when people go to the store and buy all the things for their bearded dragon, they're not even offered temperature guns. This is definitely a big problem, but this is also why temperature issues are so prevalent. So make sure you go on to Amazon or to your local hardware store or wherever, just get that temperature gun. As always, I have the things that I use linked down in the description below. If you need that, they are there. The use of night lights is another one that is caused by the fact that pet stores sell them, and a lot of pet stores actually push the idea onto people that they need night lights for their bearded dragons. Bearded dragons are diurnal animals, just like you and me. Most of you, maybe. You might be nocturnal, I don't know. But bearded dragons are diurnal. They want bright light in the daytime, and they do not want light at nighttime. They want to sleep. Zaz actually gets really frustrated if I walk into my living room where she is and I flip that light on while she's trying to sleep at night. She doesn't like it. They don't like having lights on at nighttime. And even worse than that, some lights, like the red lights, have been shown to actually cause bearded dragons' eyes discomfort over a long period of usage. The whole argument with the red light being positive, though, is that for a long time people were like, well, reptiles can't see red light, so it's fine. It doesn't hurt them. But if they can't see red light, that doesn't mean that it's just nothingness to them. That means that they are just seeing light coming in at their tank at nighttime, and that can mess up their sleep cycle. That is not good for them. If you need some sort of supplemental heat in your tank at nighttime, if that's the issue, that's why you're trying to use a night light, try something like a ceramic heat emitter or a deep heat projector from Arcadia, or you can even use a heat pad with a thermostat in their normal sleeping spot. There's a lot of different options here for providing non-light nighttime heating for your bearded dragon, but please do not use nighttime bulbs. Next, we have not gut loading bugs. This is another one that isn't really taught to you when you get your bearded dragon. It's not something that people talk about unless you are doing prior research to your bearded dragon, like you should be. So not gut loading those bugs is not good for your bearded dragon. I have a couple different videos on gut loading. I will leave one here. But gut loading is basically where you're just feeding your feeders. Those feeders need to be fed and watered to provide proper vitamins and minerals and moisture for your bearded dragon. Most of them don't drink out of water dishes. Most of them are getting the majority of their water that they need on a day-to-day basis from the food that they are eating, and that does include bugs. Those bugs need to not be starving. They need to not be thin, hollowed out shells. So make sure that at least 24 hours before feeding those bugs to your bearded dragon that they have been fed. You can do this a lot of different ways. You can just throw vegetable scraps into the tank. I would advise against doing a lot of fruits just because they rot really fast and they will smell really bad. Pre-made diets that you can buy for feeders at stores, like the Cricket Calcium, Cricket Orange Cubes, the Thirst Quenchers, things like that, if that makes you feel more comfortable. You can give them water, the ice crystals that you just soak in water and they become water cubes. You can just throw a napkin into a plastic container and fill that up with water so that they don't drown themselves. They need some sort of barrier so that they don't drown. There's a lot of options here for you. I was sent a link to a study a while back done by Rapashi that talked about high protein diets for dubia roaches possibly being linked to higher amounts of gout and other problems in bearded dragons. So in the past, I've made comments about you can just throw dog food into your gut load container. Let's not do that. Make sure you are just feeding those feeders appropriate diets and giving them liquids, some sort of water source for them to eat and drink before you feed it to your dragon. That way your bearded dragon is getting the healthiest possible food source and they are getting the water intake that they should be receiving. And the last one is a mistake that I have been guilty of too. I think I've been guilty of all of these, and that's why I have 2 videos of beginner mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes in the beginning. That's okay. This one is being afraid of all loose substrates. For a very long time in the bearded dragon keeping community, all loose substrates were seen as bad. They were seen as impaction causing and just terrible, and that's just not true. I'm not saying that if you feel uncomfortable with loose substrates, you're just wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying being afraid of all loose substrates can be harmful for your bearded dragon, and what I mean by that is that yes, bioactive tanks for bearded dragons are absolutely amazing if you are comfortable with it. However, if you have a female bearded dragon, at some point they are going to have loose substrate in their tanks. Female bearded dragons can become gravid even if they have never been in contact with a male in their entire lives. They still can and do become gravid, and when that happens, they will need a big box in their tank. This consists of loose substrate. And even for non-gravid bearded dragons, digging areas for these animals provides such a fantastic source of enrichment. I'm not saying that if you don't feel comfortable with loose substrate in your tank that you're wrong or that you should change your mind. All I'm saying is to maybe take a peek at it, look at it, see if it's something that you want to do, and don't be afraid to put it in there, and 1000% put it in there if you have a female bearded dragon that's getting into that egg laying age and is showing the signs that she needs to lay eggs and she is gravid. But that is it. That is all that I have for this video. Let me know some of the mistakes you made when you first got your bearded dragon down in the comments below, and you might help someone else out in the future. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude. The Dubia Dude is an awesome place to get dubia roaches for your bearded dragon and other animals too. Dubia roaches are still my favorite feeder. They are very high in nutrition, they are a lot cleaner than crickets, and they don't escape like crickets. I have not had a cricket escape in my house for a while now, and I'm really excited about it, but I don't even have to worry about that with dubia roaches because they are awesome and they make zero noise. It's fantastic. Dubiadude.com is also a small business who does his best to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So you know you are ordering from a company that cares about you and cares about your animal and also cares about the environment, which is super cool. Make sure to use my code Elle at thedubiadude.com to save 10% off of your entire order. Thank you so much to the Dubia Dude for sponsoring this video. If you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shoutout is for Sagittarius Gang for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole bunch of my stuff. And this week's subscriber shoutout is for Natasha Peterson, maybe that's how you say that, for commenting on last week's video. Thank you guys both so much. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. I hate when people drive through my alley. They're just driving through looking at the backs of people's houses. That's weird. Without the proper amounts of UV lighting, gotta check on the kids. Makes sense why this is such. The use of only thick or a, what's it called? Thing in this tank. What is it called? Calcium, cricket.